The outcome of the war was still far from decided. The Germans continued their offensive and the Allies were desperately seeking a way to stop them. The opening mobile phase of the campaign had lasted barely a month, yet German forces had already achieved certain successes. They had overrun much of Belgium, penetrated northern France, and now they were advancing toward Paris. Today we'll take a look at the battle that in many ways decided the course of the whole war. We will explore the generals, the decisions and the circumstances that transformed the whole campaign into trench warfare. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're talking about the Battle of the Marne. After the costly opening clashes, the French High Command moved quickly to change its approach. Joseph Joffre, as commander-in-chief, replaced ineffective leaders, strengthened weak sectors and concentrated forces where they mattered most: northern France. The aim was simple and urgent: stop the German advance. By early September, Joffre had assembled a strong strike group on the Allies' far left flank near Amiens. This included the newly created 6th Army under General Maunoury, which consisted of 150,000 to 180,000 troops, supported by the 5th Army and the British Expeditionary Force. By September 6th, on this section of the front, the Allies had a numerical advantage. Their single priority was to halt the enemy's drive. The German right wing had pushed hard and far, but the strain was showing. Long summer marches, exhausted soldiers and overstretched supply lines reduced their combat effectiveness. Simultaneously, the Germans reassigned two army corps from their right wing to the Eastern Front to counter a Russian invasion. This move proved critical in the German victory at the Battle of Tannenberg, but weakened their push toward Paris. Crucially, General Alexander von Kluck's First Army advanced on the southeasterly line that took it inside the planned wide envelopment of Paris. This maneuver left his right flank exposed toward the city and vulnerable to Maunoury's assembled forces. On September 5th, Joffre ordered a counterattack against the exposed German flank. Maunoury's 6th Army pushed forward on September 6th and struck Kluck's 1st Army. Kluck countered by pivoting his forces westward, but that maneuver widened the gap between his army and General von Bülow's 2nd Army. This separation created a critical gap, one the Allies sought to exploit. A famous episode during these days involved Parisian Texas. When General Gallieni urgently needed reinforcements for Maunoury's sector, he commandeered Texas to carry soldiers to the front. Between 4,000 and 6,000 men were transported some 30 miles. Though its military impact was limited, the episode became a lasting symbol of France's determination and resourcefulness. Coordination at the German Supreme Army Command was breaking down. Moltke's headquarters were far from the front, communications were unreliable, and armies increasingly acted on their own initiative. Moltke sent Lieutenant Colonel Richard Hentsch to the front with broad verbal authority to assess the situation and, if necessary, act decisively. Hentsch found von Bülow's 2nd Army in a precarious position and judged that it risked being overwhelmed. He authorized a withdrawal for the 2nd Army and then convinced the 1st Army to pull back in unison to avoid encirclement. When he reached Kluck on September 9th, Kluck's headquarters agreed to the retreat to maintain a solid defensive line with Bülow's army. Moltke, deeply shaken by the crisis, confirmed the withdrawal. Following these orders, the 1st and 2nd Armies withdrew in good order to defensive positions north of the Aisne River. The German armies did not collapse, but they lost the strategic initiative. Moltke later described confirming the withdrawal as a crushing decision. On September 14th, he was replaced as Chief of Staff by General Erich von Falkenhayn. The Allies pursued the Germans to the end, but found them entrenched on commanding heights, particularly the Chemin des Dames ridge. The resulting Battle of the Aisne demonstrated the lethality of prepared defensive positions, as repeated Allied assaults met concentrated fire and suffered heavy losses. As Sir John French, commander of the BEF, observed, digging in had become at least as necessary as shooting. Both sides then attempted to outflank each other northward in the so-called raid to the sea, which only resulted in extending the trench lines from Switzerland to the North Sea. But mid-October, the era of rapid mobile campaigning had ended and trench warfare, with attrition as its defining feature, had begun. Strategically, the Battle of the Marne shattered Germany's best chance of a quick victory in the west. It exposed the limits of the Schlieffen plan and forced both sides into a prolonged war of stalemate and attrition that would last another 4 years. The sudden retreat shocked Germany. Wartime censorship prevented any public discussion of the events at the front. The Battle of the Marne resurfaced only after the war, when narratives emerged blaming military leaders. This fed into the broader step-in-the-back myth that later political movements exploited to explain Germany's defeat.